If you throw a stone anywhere in the world, it will most likely land on a Chinese or an Indian. So when I first arrived in China, the sheer number of people made me feel right at home. Ren Shan Renhai, people everywhere, and I loved it. But after COVID-19, I experienced a shift in how I celebrated Ren Shan Renhai. Suddenly, fewer people meant a better world. People became wary of each other. The first few months felt unnatural, but gradually less interaction brought more peace. I began to enjoy the solitude. However, after the pandemic, Ren Shan Renhai returned with a vengeance. Everywhere I go, I see seas of people, mountains of people. Everyone seems to be traveling as if there is no tomorrow. So there was a time when I thought too many Ren was fun, but now all I wanted to do was run from all the Ren. So that's how I end the chapter. So then coming to colors, red, green and everything in between, which is the title of the book. So there is something about festivals and colors. They always go hand in hand. For the Chinese, it is red. Come the new year and the entire nation transforms into a carpet of red. Red is deeply symbolic in Chinese culture, representing wealth, fortune, abundance, and prosperity. People dress in red, decorate their homes with red lanterns and banners, and paste auspicious sayings on doors and windows. Sweets and gifts are packed in red boxes, and money is handed out in red envelopes called hangbao or ampao. For the Malay Putra, the color is green. During Hari Raya, so Ramadan is called Hari Raya in Malaysia, which marks the end of Ramadan. Everything turns green. Green clothes, green home decor, green sample date raya. They are the envelopes in which the festive money is handed out. The fast is broken on Hari Raya Adil Fitri and celebrated with generous feasts. Green and yellow lanterns hang from homes and traditional oil lamps placed inside hollow bamboo tubes with poles light the way. And for Indians, it's red, green, and everything in between. We even have a festival just for color, that's Holi. But color seeps into all parts of Indian culture. Vermilion, turmeric, indigo, henna, and nature's palette show up in rituals, fabrics, festivals, and food. Right after Chinese New Year and before Hari Raya comes Thai Pusap, which is a national holiday in Malaysia. Dedicated to Lord Murugan, it is celebrated with deep devotion by Tamil Malaysians. Dressed in bright saris and dhotis, they follow the silver chariot that carries Murugan's idol all the way from Sri Mahamariamman temple to Batu Caves. Then comes Deepavali, which is another national holiday in Malaysia. Brick fields in Kuala Lumpur explodes with color. Garlands of marigolds and chrysanthemums, hanging diyas, columns, and happy Deepavali signs in Tamil deck malls and homes. Laddus, murukus, and Indian-style sweets are exchanged with neighbors. And in a Malaysian twist, Indians now hand out hangbao. So Indians also during Deepavali, they hand out the red envelope. They are just like how the Chinese do. And then they host open houses during Hari Raya and Ramadan. They have this feast. They host open houses. So similarly, the Indians also have started. The Indian Tamils started doing it. Gatherings for festive feasts, blending Chinese and Malay customs into Indian festivities. And as the year winds down, Christmas brings back red back again, completing the circle of colors. So these are just small snippets I'm reading. Then coming to cultural memory. Cultural memory is, India and China have been the two surviving civilizations on the planet today, the biggest surviving civilizations. And between these two countries are the Southeast Asian countries, which act as a cradle between these two countries. And over the years, there have been a lot of cultural memories that have been passed on from China and India, and it's still retained in Southeast Asian countries. So they looked up to China for political and economic support, and they looked up to India for spiritual and education and philosophical ideas. They looked up to India. So we have, for example, many ask on this cover, what is this? This is a shadow puppetry which is very popular in Southeast Asia. It's called Wayang Kulit, and the stories are all from Ramayana or Mahabharata. So we may not have it in India, but it's still there in Southeast Asia. So there are many the cultural similarities, and they've retained it as cultural memory. And when I went to Bali, I found a guy on the Pantai. There's a beach called Pantai Pandava Beach, and this guy was reciting the Gayatri Mantra. He said, I recite it 3 times a day. So he recited it, and I was really mesmerized how well. And he said, no, it's quite common. All of us do it 3 times a day. And there was this guy who displayed his arm, and there was a huge tattoo, Ganesha tattoo on his arm. I have posted the picture. The picture is there. That's literally you can see the guy with his arm tattoo. And but nevertheless, there were things like India, but it was not India actually. There was a difference. So I believe when Rabindranath Tagore went to Java, he's supposed to have said that I see India, but I don't recognize India. So I also felt the same when I went to Bali. It was it. I could see, it looks like India, but then it didn't feel like India. So then coming to probably, the majority here are women. They would really love this chapter. So it's called Daughters and Putris. In Malaysia, the girls are called Putris. The boys are called Putras, and Putris. Girls are called Putris. So if you grew up as a girl in the 1960s or 70s, particularly in small towns, you would probably relate to what I'm about to say. The primary goal of a girl's life back then was to marry and start a family. It could have been a scene straight from Pride and Prejudice or Little Women. Only a handful went on to become engineers, physicians, or lawyers. Most were groomed to be beautiful wives and beautiful daughters-in-law. There was an unspoken competition among the mothers. One would enroll the daughter in stitching and embroidery, while another insisted on knitting and painting. A third would proudly claim that cooking and housekeeping were essential life skills, because at that time it was unheard of to ask a prospective groom if he could cook. So, there are many other bizarre encounters, like a woman who made the potential bride walk back and forth to check if she had a limp, made her sing to test her voice, and tugged at her hair to ensure it wasn't a wig. So all these incidents. So the story of daughters across Asia isn't too different. Mothers worked tirelessly to prepare their girls for marriage. Outdoor play ended around age 5. Girls were kept indoors to master the arts of cooking, sewing, and social etiquette. Some mothers would travel to neighboring towns to learn a skill so that they could teach it to their daughters. Wealthier families hired tutors, while royal families taught calligraphy, martial arts, and even the art of seduction under strict supervision. So every lesson was a step towards one goal, marriage. So in Java, girls were trained to walk with a duck-like gait as a sign of modesty. They would walk like, the ducks walking in Java. The girls were taught that. So similarly, there are a lot of instances. So I'm sure, I visited the Lotus Feet Museum in a place called Luzon near Shanghai, and it was for centuries the mothers in China had bound their daughters' feet tightly to shape them into delicate lotus buds. It was seen as beautiful and a ticket to wealth. So similarly, even in India, I still remember till my grandmom's time, there were many ladies who, when they became widows, they shaved their heads. So voluntarily they did it. So you have to not look beautiful. Once you are a widow, you have to look ugly. So that was there. So shaving of heads and the foot binding in China. So they were very similar, But now it's totally, today's mothers continue to push their daughters, but now it is for careers and confidence rather than cooking and conformity. So I just go on to, explain how, today's mothers have transformed and how the daughters, even in Malaysia, even if they wear the hijab, they still they drive, they mingle around, they wear business attire to officers, and very smart, very smart. So it's nice to see. Sometimes it's you feel like this is the generation to be born a girl. So lucky all of you. So then comes house helpers, and in this I have explained like all the cities where I have lived through, how the helpers have taught me a lesson or two, and how they have I've learned a lot. But then end of the day, all the helpers, whomever I've spoken to, they don't want their children, to get into this profession. They say no, we want our children to get educated and work in the offices, banks, doctors, become doctors, engineers. This should be the end. This should be the end. So I don't know. Like the West has moved on from this, the having help at home. But maybe a day will come in the East as well, when we won't get the next generation, the domestic help may not be available. But anyway, we have technology, and that will keep us going. So next chapter is what is in a name. So this is how I went around and I started taking, especially in Malaysia. So there's so many names connected to India, and so then you go on identifying, searching for the roots of all these names, Malaysia and Indonesia. So there's an entire chapter, and then there is a day in Kuala Lumpur. If I go on reading it, I think it will just go on. In Kuala Lumpur, most malls are interconnected by underground passageways, which are great condition. And as I walk through one such, I often think about ancient underground cities, such as those in Cappadocia, and how people built extensive networks of tunnels to escape the heat. Maybe this is something similar. Maybe we are no different from the ancients after all. I often meet lost tourists along the way, backpackers staring at their phones, trying to find their next stop. I have become something of a part-time interpreter. I offer directions, suggest poppetry, and even help with vlog intros if they are filming. Some thank me and promise to tag me in their YouTube comments. Some just wander away. So that is what, whenever I visit a mall, and these underground malls, and somehow there are many, I bump into a lot of YouTubers, and they just stop me and ask me for directions, and I give them a suggestion. You can go here, go there. So then comes the melting pot. It's basically the three cultures, like how Malaysia has both the Chinese Malaysians, the Indian Malaysians, and the Malay Malays. They all intermingle, and they coexist. It's a beautiful thing to see there. So, and there's a lot of intermarriage happening. Intermarriage too is more common today. Perhaps it's the most poetic reflection of unity. One pot, three flavors: India, China, and Malaya simmering together. So they speak in Bahasa. That's the common link. Amongst themselves, they speak in Bahasa, and with others, they speak in Hindi. Last two chapters is the Yatra. It's called the Yatra, the Nepal chapter and the Tibet chapter. So this is I go on a journey because I have my dad's asti with me, the ashes. So one fine day I say, I have to let go. There comes a time when you have to let go. So this is the time I will go to Manasa Sarovara and I'll let go of this the holy waters. So I just read from the Tibet chapter, just one paragraph. The walk from Yamadwar to Dirapuk is about 13 kilometers. It takes 7 or 8 hours through a high altitude desert. On either side, the mountains stretch wide and bare. Prayer flags dance in the wind. Money stones etched with mantras line the paths, forming low sacred walls. I walked in silence, overtaken by sun and dust. Tibetans passed me, performing full body prostrations. They repeated it again and again, stretching for miles. The strength of their devotion and dedication was unwavering. I was moved and just couldn't fathom that kind of faith. A group of bonds passed in the opposite direction, walking the Kora anti-clockwise. Actually, the Kora, it's the circumambulate Manasarovar. The Tibetans call it Kora. Because from Manasa, we can drive to Darchen, the starting point of Kora, around Kailash. A group of bonds passed in the opposite direction, walking the Kora anti-clockwise. Many smiled and greeted me with folded hands and the warm Tashidale. May you be happy. This probably was one of the kindest blessings I have ever received. Just as the sky cleared, I saw a monastery on a hill to my left. It might have been the place where the yogi Milarepa once meditated. I was exhausted and unsure how far I had left to go. And then I saw it, Mount Kailash. Black, sheer, colossal, streaked with snow, glowing under the sun rays. The north face shimmered like gold. I stood transfixed, unable to react. Then slowly I dropped to my knees, had no words, just tears. In that moment, everything fell away, my doubts, trepidation, exhaustion. I saw myself as this insignificant minuscule in front of the mighty mountain, a complete nothing, a complete nothing. Yeah. Thank you.